Before we can actually get started texturing in Ravage, we'll have to save the blend file. We recommend having a different folder for each project, and that's because this Ravage cache will be shared. If you have the same image name in two projects and they share the cache, it's gonna be overwritten for one of them. Let's save the file. You'll notice now we're prompted to reset our material. Let's click on that. The first thing we'll do before getting into this is talk about the quick panels. The first quick panel is a lighting quick panel and can be accessed by pressing Shift Alt and Q. This allows you to quickly change your lighting settings and view your material in different lighting setups. The next one requires us to be in texture paint mode, and to do that we can press Alt F3. While in here, if we press Shift Alt and W, the texture panel will show up. We have brush alpha and brush texture. The difference between these two is brush alpha doesn't have color data and brush texture does have color data. The next panel also requires us to be in texture paint mode, and that's a brush panel. If I press Shift Alt and E, I can quickly change settings on the active brush. If I press Shift Alt and R, I'll get the settings panel, which allows me to change some of Blender's own preferences and also some Ravage specific preferences. We can also change the image settings for Ravage that we saw within the add-on preferences from here. The next thing we'll talk about is the environment rotation modal. For that, we'll need to be in the material preview mode. While in here, you'll notice that our object is lit on one side and not the other. If we want the side to be illuminated by the HDRI, we can press Alt and Q and move our mouse. You'll notice that the HDRI moves with the mouse. I can press left click to confirm my change. The next thing is a material control panel. At the top of the Ravage panel, you'll notice we have select material, which allows you to pick which material you'd like to texture on. Material name, let's name this cassette player. You can choose to create a new material, move the material up or down, and delete the material. The next thing we'll talk about are the tabbed contexts, and for that we'll need to create a new layer. We have the layer settings, which allows us to change the channel settings for the given layer. We have the filter settings, which allows us to change the filter settings for a given channel on the layer. These are the same as the ones shown in this tab, but in their own specific tab. You can choose to have them show in one and not the other, or you can choose to have them show in both. The next tab is a masks tab. This allows you to bake down your masks and also add masks to your layer. Masks are essential, especially to a layer-based texturing process, as it allows you to pick what you want to be seen on a given layer and not on the other. The next tab is a vector settings tab, and this allows for vector manipulations on layers with textures. This can affect performance and become slow very fast, but those who like to have this control can do it in this tab. The next tab is a bake tab, where we're able to bake support maps, export our material, or bake high poly data onto a low poly object. The final tab is the material settings. This allows you to change the BSDF node settings, bump node settings, normal node settings, and some general material settings. If we had a clear coat node, we'd also have its settings down here, but this current layer does not have that configured. Before we can begin texturing, we'll need to talk about baking support maps. If we come back to the masks tab and click on add mask, you'll notice that some masks are hyphenated and have words like bevel map or ID map. This is because they require those masks in order to work. These are generator masks. Generator masks are great for procedural workflows but can also become expensive. We'll come back to the bake tab and click on ID map. We'll then select all our objects by pressing A in the viewport, scrolling down a bit and clicking from material slots. This will generate a different color for each material slot on the different objects. You'll notice that we have multiple material slots and all of this have been configured to different faces. If I then scroll down a bit, I can choose my bake settings. I'll set my margin to 2, leave my samples at 4, and resolution at 2048. I can also choose to change the image name, but for now I'll just leave it as is. If I then press Bake ID Map, it'll go through each of the objects and bake the textures onto them. That's it for support maps. Join me in the next video where we actually begin to texture this object.